Good afternoon. Welcome to the Wednesday afternoon update, September 16th, 2020, here on the Tropics. As always, these thoughts are mine alone, and in making decisions regarding each of our systems here, please refer to your local weather office, the National Hurricane Center, and your local officials for all the latest information regarding your particular area. Well, last night we had Sally here come ashore, and I'm not going to talk about that because what is happening is ongoing, and there's not really much to say at this point about Sally other than stay safe and please be wary of the flash flooding that is ongoing in southern Alabama and the Florida Panhandle here. But we do have a few other things to talk about if we look at the broad shot provided by the tropicaltidbits.com website here. We have Invest 90L here in the southwestern Gulf of Mexico. We have Hurricane Teddy here in the central Atlantic, kind of meandering to the northwest here. This is a huge system here, and we'll be briefly talking about that. Then we have Invest 98L here, that is to the south of Cabo Verde. This is still days away from even beginning to be talked about as a potential land threat here. And we also have Tropical Storm Vicky here, which is weakening. This is not worthy of discussion. We have Invest 99L here, that is to the far east-northeast of the Azores and may briefly become a tropical cyclone here. And we have the remnants of Paulette, which may turn south and potentially reorganize here south of the Azores. Very busy still. This is not over. We still have quite a bit of the season left. Just because, Sally has come ashore now does not mean that we have no threats after that. We're going to have to unfortunately immediately move on to Teddy and Invest 90L here in the southern Gulf of Mexico. We're going to talk about Teddy first here. And if we look at a closer shot of Teddy, you can see that convection is firing around a cloud-filled eye right now. This is currently pegged at about 100 miles per hour per the National Hurricane Center, and there's a couple things to note here about the environment that this is in. This has a very large moisture bubble, and you can see this by the large amount of convection spreading out ahead of the primary core here that you're seeing. And this has been able to kind of create its own environment and really sustain itself today and been able to intensify rather gradually here. And you see on the upper level dropsonde missions that immediately out to its west and to its north here, you're seeing a lot of dry air that is to the north of that. And you will see that. However, there is not a lot of shear that is being impinged upon the system. You can't really see that here. None of the mid-level clouds indicate that there's shear here. This is really in a fantastic environment for continued intensification, and the National Hurricane Center seems to agree with that, which they bring it up to a Category 4 hurricane with winds of 130 miles per hour as it advances gradually to the northwest here. Thankfully, this is not moving due west here and heading towards the islands. That would be very concerning, but this is moving generally out to sea. This may come close to Bermuda, and we're going to talk about that. Let's look at the 5-day forecast illustrating that northwestward track and potentially a left bend here that brings it uncomfortably close to Bermuda on the day 5 forecast here. This is still several days away, and we're talking about Monday here that we're bringing potential impacts to Bermuda. It's still, a lot of track error here. It could go well to the west of Bermuda, or it could go well to the east of Bermuda and potentially harmlessly recurve out to sea. However, there has been an evolution on the model guidance as to what Teddy may actually do here. And this is the 3-day forecast provided by the GFS model. This is 500 millibar forecast here, denoting an increasingly strong ridge to the north and east of Teddy that is guiding the storm around it, and it is rounding this ridge, and this ridge has come back stronger each run here. If we go back to about 5 runs ago here, you can see how much weaker this ridge is, and so Teddy would, in this situation, just recurve out to sea here. But that is no longer the case, as the ridge has built back in on the GFS run and is here longer, and so this is able to make it a little further to the west this run. And again, we're still talking about this is 3 days out from now. So there's still a lot of time for this to change and potentially, either go further west or further east. But these newest runs have upper level dropzone data in them, so they tend to be a little more accurate with the actual presentation of the atmosphere here. And there's definitely a deeper ridge that is being denoted by what was the upper level dropzone data yesterday and the upper level dropzone data that is currently being distributed or found out right now, because there's another mission out there right now that is investigating the environment around Teddy here. So as we push this forward, this is able to get further to the west on the GFS run, and this is similar to what the European model has as well. I'll show that for the sake of time, but this is able to crawl west, and this ridge ends up getting broken down by the trough that approaches, that kind of gets close up on it here and actually breaks this down almost completely here, which effectively breaks down the steering on this run. Again, we're still talking about, this is 5 days out here where it stalls to the south of Bermuda according to the GFS model. And this is likely to change, but we have seen that a gradual trend, if we go back a couple of runs to the east with this blocking pattern here that is developing over the eastern United States and eastern Canada. If this continues, then there won't be a lot of steering that guides Teddy on day 5, maybe. This is still, again, a 5-day forecast, so there's a lot to change here, but it is looking increasingly likely that we may be talking about something potentially impacting Bermuda and maybe impacting Atlantic Canada or Maine or New England later on. This is going to take a while, and we're going to talk about this each day here as the situation evolves. But for now, not a whole lot to talk about with Teddy. This is just going to become a powerful hurricane and hopefully be out to sea for a little bit. Now, if we look at another system that we have been watching, here's Sally off on the upper part of your screen here, but we have NWS 90L here. This has been that Gulf disturbance that was, west of Sally when it was just to the east of Florida. And this was the Gulf disturbance that was down here. This has meandered very slowly to the south here and is now somewhere in the Bay of Campeche and a little further to the north in the southwestern Gulf of Mexico here. And this has entered an environment that is much more favorable and has, a lot more divergence in the atmosphere for this storm. And this has been able to organize somewhat. You can tell there's a little mid-level presence in here that is to the north, or that is on top of the general pool of lower level vorticity that is in here. And we kind of have an evolution of this on the models now. Models are starting to pick up on this. And if we look at the GFS model here, or the vorticity, 850 millibar vorticity, you can see how this evolves on the GFS model. If we go back to the beginning of this loop, you can see how it is elongated here, but there's a mid-level presence that is on, well, the mid-level presence does not show up on the 850 millibar vorticity, but this is elongated here and it kind of just strings itself out, and it's able to consolidate a little bit, but then it strings out again as it interacts with the vorticity that Sally brings out, and it's kind of elongated for a while here. And if we go to the 48-hour, this is when it's possible that this could develop here. This is going to be meandering in the Gulf for several days. This is on the European run. This is in the Gulf for all 10 days on the European model run. If we look at the European model, which shows a similar evolution here, an elongated trough that maybe has a low in here. This is, going to be a confusing storm because models are just now picking up on it, and it's going to be subject to change. And this is going to be sitting over the Gulf and kind of just, scribbling around here and not really doing a whole lot. You can see on the European model run, this is not going anywhere any fast. This is more than a week away now, and we just watched 5 days. This storm, moved from right here to practically the same area, still sitting and just sits off of the South Texas coast / northern Mexico here and is not really moving at all. But it does develop it rather gradually, and this development may be a little faster. And here's why. This is the mid-level moisture, and you can tell that this is in a very moist environment here, and this may be able to consolidate a little faster. And the mid-level vortex is not very strung out here. There's actually not much of a mid-level vortex in here. There's just kind of a mid-level trough of sorts in here that has developed. And this gets strung out on the GFS. You can see that the surface trough is still very broad here. This is the isobar for that surface trough. And you can see that any mid-level flow is generally uniform here. We kind of just have a gradual curling of the mid-level flow here. This is not very organized on the GFS run, but this may change. And it'll be very interesting to watch this as it evolves. It may be able to evolve a little faster than the models are saying right now. We had this similar problem with Sally here, where models generally weren't fans of it early on, and we may have a similar situation here in the western Gulf of Mexico. But regardless, if you are on the anywhere from the Louisiana coastline to Mexico, all the way south into Veracruz and into even New Orleans here, do be watching this, as this could be impacting your area sometime within the next week. This is something to watch, and it will be working with very warm water temperatures here. If we look at the Navy's site, you have, this is the cold wake from Sally here. But if we look at the Western Gulf, you can tell that the waters are very warm in this region of the Gulf. And so this is going to be able to potentially become something of importance here to talk about. And so right now the NHC has it as a 70% chance to develop within the next 5 days. I'm assuming that this will likely develop. I give it about a 50-50 shot of developing into something within the next 2 days or so, and after that it will likely develop within that time period. So just keep an eye on it. That's all for now. Stay safe, and thanks for watching.